Hey guys, this is Jessica with Quirk Creations, and I wanted to do an experiment. I've watched a lot of videos. Certainly the most common is using the Wilton melting wafers, candy melts as they're called. They come in all different colors for dipping and creating chocolate or dipped and drizzled items. But I wanted to put a few more to the test, get a wide spectrum. So I've picked up some Ghirardelli melting wafers, picked up some Celebrated melting wafers, and I've picked up some Toll House chocolate chips. Now, I've heard a lot on tutorials that chocolate chips are not designed to melt, and there's no way that they can be used. But in looking at the ingredients, they're virtually similar to other melts. So now I've added a little heavy whipping cream, which is common in melting white chocolate to create a ganache. So I applied the same concept to see if we can melt these chocolate chips. So I'm going to stick the first Wilton in the microwave. It is a smaller amount, so when melting any kind of wafer, you want to start at 15-second bursts and have your microwave set at 50% power or defrost. And since my only experience has been with the Wilton chocolate melts, and since that's the most common variety mentioned on YouTube, I figured we'd give a few other a try, see how we like them. So these are melting a little bit. Let's try one more 15-second burst. 50% power. And I think we should get there with the Wilton melts. Give me just 1 second. You should have heard my cake go off. Perfect timing. So let me pull my cake, because obviously we need something to dip once I find my ideal melting and dipping preference. We'll of course need some cake pops, and I will also have a video on my cake pops coming to you shortly. So let's pull the Wilton wafers out of the microwave. Looks like after 30 seconds, pretty well melted. You want to give it a good stir, because the looks can be deceiving. It doesn't take much to melt them, and you definitely do not want to overheat and burn them, or scorch as it's called, because once they're scorched, might as well throw them away. They're no good. So rule of thumb, take it slower, and the heat from the container and the melts will continue to melt. If there's a little chunk kind of left in it, go ahead and let the heat around it, do the rest, versus sticking it back in the microwave. I even, since I was just baking a cake, also like to set it on the stove top because the heat from the oven, albeit minimum, also kind of helps keep it at least warm. So now we're going to move on to the Ghirardelli. 15-second, cook power 50%. Now I've heard in baking, obviously the higher quality the product, the better. I would consider Ghirardelli a very high-end product. So hopefully I'm not wrong. But I'm hoping my bet, wow, actually the Ghirardelli, after 15 seconds, is virtually as melted as what it took the Wilton to get to twice as fast, or twice as long. So that's pretty impressive. Now, it is still a little chunky, so I don't think, so I am gonna stick it back in there, but I imagine we're gonna have a pretty nice mixture after this next 15-second burst. Yeah, wow, completely smooth. So let the heat from the stove continue to well, I was optimistic that the heat would melt the last couple. See the couple last little chunks in the Wilton? I was optimistic that it would finish melting itself. So let me go ahead and stick this back in for perhaps 10 more seconds at the most. Okay, there we go. So now it's completely melted. So let's let that sit. Now we have the celebrated vanilla wafers. 15-second, cook power 50, start. I am going to grab okay, so looks like these are melting very nicely. Wow. I think these may melt, let's see, in another 10-second burst, certainly being the fastest. And I am adding some Paramount crystals to the Wilton. Now, if you look on the back of all of these chocolate or candy dip melts, wafers, they are oil based, and that's exactly what Paramount crystals are. Okay, so here we have already very nicely dipped. So from a quickness standpoint, the Celebrated came first, with taking about 25 seconds to fully melt with no lumps coming out, followed by the Ghirardelli at, I would say, 29 seconds fully melted, and then the Wilton at about 45 seconds fully melted. However, it's still, I don't feel as thin as the other two. So like I said, I added Paramount crystals to get it to a slightly thinner consistency. Because you wanted the consistency of about paint. Alright. Now for the chocolate chips. Start these slow. Let's do 10-second, 50% power. And make sure any bowl, so of course you have scorching, which occurs when you overcook candy melts, candy wafers, but you also have what's called seizing if you introduce any kind of inappropriate liquid, such as water or otherwise, to the mix. So interesting. So the chocolate chips melted, but I'm getting a feeling that they seized because I introduced heavy whipping cream. So I'm gonna try one last thing before we decide that everyone on YouTube is correct, that chocolate chips are designed not to be melted. And I don't like to take no for an answer. So let's grab these bad boys. Since they are oil-based, let's take a little oil and introduce it to the formula. 10-second burst, 50% power. Delicious. Okay. So we got some melting going on. Definitely not what happened the first time. I think this looks promising. So let's keep going. All right. And we have ourselves melted chocolate chips, my friends. Probably to, I'd say, a tablespoon and a half of, couple tablespoons of chocolate chips, and perhaps just a few drops of coconut oil. And my friends, we have melted chocolate chips. Now let's see. Now I will say, from a consistency standpoint, I really like the Ghirardelli. I'm not gonna lie. It seems very smooth. It seems, but it also seems to be the thinnest. They all seem to move. They're all very fluid. The Wilton being the thickest, even with the introduction of the Paramount crystals, which I didn't have to do with any of the others. So, what I'm going to do is put some cookies put some chocolate in these molds. Let's see. See how they hold up that way. Alright. So we've put our control in for the Wilton. Let's move on to the Celebrate It. Definitely flows easier. Okay. Smooths out a lot easier. Now the Ghirardelli. Smooths out very easily. Now chocolate chips. Oh, even this is pretty smooth. So here we go. We have our 4 test cups. Stick this in the freezer. Oh. All right. So we will also taste them try them from a taste standpoint, but I will definitely say every brand but Wilton is my favorite, truth be told. It's just so much thicker. But let's withhold judgment until we dip our cake pops. I will be back. And until next time, I hope you have enjoyed, and make sure to bake creatively and with your core.